All right, so wake up your body a little bit. And obviously, rhythm and moving around is actually one of the smart ways to start to get more of your brain listening to more of what's in the room. So you're moving around and yeah, you're loosening muscles, but quit, just also notice how movement changes your relationship to the room, right? You start to go, huh. Interesting, right? So maybe, God, I got to tighten my backrest. It's really loose. One of these times I'm just going to go flying right out. By the way, I'm recovering from COVID. I've got a bladder infection and I still feel a little bit of sun, right? What the hell? Got to bow to my body, man, my immune system right now. So I'm moving around and going like, it ain't, so your body's got a story that it's laboring through for sure. And it's the soldier, and your mind's not always the soldier. Your mind sometimes go out of phase. And that's not a problem with the mind. That's the superpower of the mind, right? So do some version of dog pose. It can tap a different kind of energy to get back about what Peter's saying. And the mind can invoke the body, right? Like think about how a judgment of fear can make your whole body tingle. Yeah, you definitely your mind can initiate sensation through your whole body, right? Because consciousness has at least two aspects, right? So I'm lengthening my spine, I'm hitting down through my sitting bones, I'm lifting my chest. I'm pressing down through my index bone. I'm drawing my bicep back towards my face. My hands are on the table. I'm rolling the inner upper arm up, right? I'm dropping the shoulder blades down. I'm extending my spine. I'm hitting down through my sitting bones. I'm extending from the inner groin to the inner knee, right? Hopefully, you're already doing all this before I even said it. Broaden across your collarbones. There's a lot of stuff going on in a yoga pose. Holy hell. Good thing my mind doesn't have to keep track of it all because my practice knows how to do. My mind just has to get quiet enough to receive. So as you're doing all this stuff in your body to lengthen your spine a little bit, to wake it up, make sure you go to that place where you can feel the whole room. Keep your spine alert, feel the whole room. Breathe. Good. So exercise proprioception and interoception at the same time. All right. So we don't get Renee checking her nails again. I'm going to tease her the entire. So one of the thought experiments in the book is, can you touch, and you've heard me do it online, can you touch a tree from 50 feet away? Remember, you heard me talk about this in classes before, right? So as you know, as you sit up straight and tall, and I ask you, for example, to hit down through your sitting bones, but then continue that, and this happens in um Vrksasana tree pose, but hit down through your sitting bones, but go all the way through your seat down to the floor and extend all the way through up through the top of your head and towards the ceiling, while at the same time broaden between your shoulder blades. Like, what do those instructions even mean? What do you mean? How do you continue your effort through your sitting bones down to the floor? How do you extend beyond the top of your head, right? So, my experience with yoga poses and touching trees reminds me that prana travels in every direction at once, through everything, even empty spaces. And it does so through the conduit of a silent, sensed hum of emptiness. A yogi eventually realizes many offshoots of this hum. An example is that practitioners slowly realize that poses do not end at the terminus of the body. They expand beyond the body's edges through an integrated continuity between inward and outward emptiness. So this just sounds like words, right? But wait, inhale, take your arms wide. So yeah, I've done this a zillion times. If I want to extend beyond my fingertips, I could reach, that would be my will more, right? Or I could draw my shoulder blades back towards the midline, engage my spine up and down, and create the sensation of expanding beyond my fingertips and breathe. So it turns out, paradoxically, right, and then drop your arms, is that by moving towards the midline while extending out away from the midline at the same time, which is very hard for your mind to do, that you can get the sense of the fact that the poses don't end at the terminus of your body. So when I ask you to hit down through your sitting bones all the way down to the floor and extend out through your top of your head, try it again, right? If you use your will to do it, it's not going to work. If you surrender or quiet down your mind, not be a perfectionist, not just being just in your head, right? You hit down, you rise up, you inhale, take your arms wide, you go back towards the midline, and you get the sense, you open your palms, you open the skin on your palms, and you get the sense by making your spine even more alert that you are expanding, your spine energy is expanding beyond your fingertips, and you breathe, something's changed. Good, and then release. That's all that sentence means. So let me read that sentence again. A yogi eventually realizes many offshoots about this hum. An example is that practitioners slowly realize that poses not end at the terminus of the body. They expand beyond the body's edges through the integrated continuity between inward and outward emptiness. When you reached beyond your fingertips, it wasn't like grabbing this water bottle. It was you realized a balance between what was inside and what was outside of you. And the balance came by softening the inside of your mouth, softening the skin on your face, going inward, learning to surrender while you're expanding beyond. I'm calling that an integrated continuity between the emptiness inside and outside of you. Nod with me if this even makes any sense. You see what I'm saying? Have you lost me here? I'm trying to get you to what balance is from a pranic point of view, right? Can you imagine? I might have to cut this part of the book because it's going to be too much for the reader. I even apologize at the end of this paragraph coming up, right? Okay. An example is, okay, blah, blah, they expand beyond the body's image through the integrated continuity between inward and outward emptiness. To sense this continuity, the yogi must train to remain inwardly calm, learn to soften the brain, and do so even when strenuously exerting. Honing such an ability increases strength, balance, and flexibility, but also opens the door to a grounded sense of wordless vastness. Oh my God, these just sounds like words, but I swear to God, I didn't pay Peter or Catherine to ask the questions they did. That would be synchronicity from the universe, right? Like, holy cow. So let me read that sentence again, and then we'll do it in a pose here, right? To sense this continuity, the yogi must learn to train the mind. The yogi's mind must train to remain inwardly calm, i.e., Peter, not be thinking too many thoughts, right? Learn to soften the brain, make the brain receptive so some of the sensations that the brain doesn't listen to usually come in, like the way that more sensations appear in Shavasana, right? So you know all these things. It just sounds like funny in words. Learn to soften the brain, and even to do so while strenuously exerting. Okay, in a second, let's take the arms wide and do it all. right? So remember, we're talking about inward and outward continuity, and I'm telling you that it's the pause or the fundamental observer that's going to be able to see the connection between inside and out. Your mind's not going to be able to do it, right? Your mind's going to try to grip it, all right? So you're going to sit up, feel your sitting bones, even start to get that your poses go or continue beyond the terminus of your body. Hit down through your sitting bones, stretch out to the top of your head. Make the spine more alert. Inhale, take your arms wide. Now, if I want to go beyond the terminus of my body, I'm going to paradoxically move towards my midline, ground the thriving energy in my spine, lift my sternum, spread the space between my shoulder blades, keep the shoulder blades going this way, and go beyond the fingertips, down through my sitting bones, out to the top of my head, and feel the space around me as part of the pose. Become part of the integrated connection of in the emptiness. Breathe. All this can happen at once. What the hell? You thought you were just moving your arms. Okay, this is only the first paragraph. We're almost done. And I'm going to try to tell you that balance is an organic integration of empty space, where you start to realize, this is what you learn in inversions, you start to learn in a whole bunch of poses, is that if you can get the empty space to be aligned, which it already is, if you can be a conduit for how the universe is already integrated, your poses will end up taking less effort and you'll actually learn more from them, right? Okay, there's more. Honing such an ability increases strength, balance, and flexibility, but also opens a door to a grounded sense of wordless vastness. So it turns out that you've heard me talk about balance in terms um, of no, there's teeter-totter balance, which is what, most of us are engaged in, right? So you're, most of the time we're like, whoa, whoa, and you're trying to bounce from side to side. But there's an integrated type of balance, a more organic sense of balance that comes by balancing between what's inside and what's outside. And this is what you're learning in yoga poses over time. The yoga poses vary, right? Because you're learning that balance has a certain succulence to it, right? And it makes you stronger, right? There's a relationship between being, if you're off balance, you're not going to be as strong, right? All right. So one reason yoga poses vary so widely in body positions is to drive home the realization, these are too many words, that the underlying multi-directional flow of prana remains the same in all of them. For example, there's an obvious contrast between standing balanced on your feet and balancing on your head and forearms, headstand. And yet, through diligent practice, the practitioner realizes that in both poses, the underlying flow of prana's energy doesn't change, even while your individual experiences are vastly different, right? So when I try to extend down through my sitting bones and extend up to the top of my head and broaden, right? It's a very different feeling than when I do it with my arms wide. Except the way prana is moving through the universe, it's the same realization. And that what a practitioner doing is trying to realize that it's the same. It's the same whether you're on your head or whether you're standing, right? And that's part of coming home and realizing the realization of yoga. Prana simultaneously goes down and up, forward and back, out to each side, and it continences movement. It also moves forward and backward in time. The body and its breath are merely prana's expressions. Practitioners slowly realize that its underlying flow is impervious to different body positions, whether their head is where their feet are or vice versa, the same core manifestation is happening. To put it starkly, prana doesn't care where your head is, Peter. Doesn't care what your thoughts are. There's another reality here. All right. Is that everyone lost, hopelessly lost now? Or does it strangely and uncomfortably make sense? Anybody? Not the words, but can you feel what I'm talking about? What was that, Renee? A little bit? Come forward, Renee. Speak to us. Speak to us. I'm kind of curious how it only kind of makes sense. It might help. No, she says no again. Oh, well. Anyone else want to weigh in here before we start doing more asana? There's a balance. The empty, you've heard me say it before, the emptiness, the empty spaces are already balanced. That's already occurred. You're trying to figure out how to make your body congruent in order to balance. It won't make you fall and not hit your head on the dishwasher or on the floor, on the washing machine, right? Because once you start falling to gravity, this level of realization isn't going to stop physical facts, right? So do you have any comment? Are you going to help me at all, Angelique?
I had to go answer the door through part of it, but
Oh my God, she
no,
always has excuses.
I do. I
Everyone else had to go answer the door too. Someone was calling them, their mama or their daddy or somebody.
it did make sense to me though. Like the part that I heard did make sense.
Oh, thanks for that. That's real helpful.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's stop all the words, stop the madness, right? So sit up straight and tall. We're going to start doing some more balancing stuff. So one of the ways to find where the balance is to start to get more sensation to the body. So I'm leaning from side to side and I'm pulling up each one of my sitting bones so I can my brain can get input of both of them. So I can connect because I got more sensation now. I can connect to each side of the sitting bone so I can allow the space between my sitting bones, and then I can use that to rise up through the center of my chest. Right? I can use the space between my sitting bones another way into the midline. So when I broaden between my shoulder blades, I'm actually opening the conduit that actually is at the base of my spine. Right. And now I'm going to lift my sternum, lift under my collarbones. But now I'm going to also try to open to the space between my ear and my shoulder. Right. And going to try to open to the space behind me. So my mind has to start allowing in what's actually happening. And breathe. From this type of connection, even though I had to just move because I have to get set, I'm going to try to stay steady. The observer is going to try to stay steady with that connection and inhale and take one arm up. In order to find the midline again, I'm going to drop my shoulder blade and extend up through my fingertips. I'm going to again go beyond the terminus of my body. As I drop my shoulder blades, I'm going to hit down through my sitting bones, extend from my inner groin to the inner knee to the inner heel, right? And I'm going to then feel the whole room again. My mind wants to make it too simple. Inhale on an exhalation, go around over to the side. So my mind makes it more simple so it can exert its will. I'm trying to stop my mind from trying to smash all the sensations together, right? In order for your will to work, your mind will have to narrow experience. That's why your brain is staying passive. So I'm sitting here for a second. I'm going to re-soften my brain so I can feel connection between the quietness in me and the quietness in the room. I'm going to re-engage my midline to bring life to my pose, feel my sitting bones down, rise up through my spine, broadening between my shoulder blades, dropping my shoulder blades down So more energy is coming out the center of my chest and into the room. I'm going to inhale and I'm holding onto my knee. I'm going to exhale, but I'm not going to try to win the twist. It doesn't matter how far I go as much as how deeply I rotate my midline. It's, yeah, call it your vertebrae, call it your midline, call it all of the above, because you're trying not to be limited to just your physical body. You're trying to open and soften the brain to more sensations. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Now, as I'm wearing out. This is hard. There's real stuff going on. I'm beginning to fatigue. I'm going to ground again and try to stay connected to the whole room. I'm going to engage even more through my spine as I'm feeling the whole room. It's going to make me feel my skin more. Good. And then release and come on back. Ooh, so how do you stay balanced in a pose, not just from side to side, but in your whole body while you're exerting? So we often define balance not as teeter-totter balance, but as an equal distribution of awareness in your body, right? So all of you's online with your brain. All right, so sit up straight and tall again. Again, you're going to go beyond the terminus of your body because you want to be in the whole room when you do a yoga pose. You want to be in your body and in the whole room. You want to be introspective and proprioceptive. Hit down through your sitting bones, ascend out to the top of your head. Broaden across the collarbone, broaden the space between the shoulder blades. Open to the negative space here, the empty space here. Feel the glow of your skin a little bit. Be in the whole room. You're trying to balance the emptiness on the inside with the balance on the outside because it's already integrated. These are not things you do. These are things you allow. Inhale, take your arm up. So now I've changed all the gravity. I got to find it again. Drop my shoulder blade down, hit down through my sitting bones, extend from my inner groin to the inner knee, go beyond my fingertips as an expression of my spine, right? My spine is not ending at the terminus of my body, right? My spine goes down to the floor and beyond my fingertips. Inhale, on an exhalation, go to the side. So I'm getting grounded here. And now I'm in this position where remember, we're thinking that the pranic flow is the same, even though my body's changed. So I have to find how that's true. Hit down through my sitting bones again, extend up through my spine, broadening between my shoulder blades, softening the jaw, the inside of my mouth, feeling the touch of the air on my skin, being in the whole room, being open to what's behind you. You can't do these things. You have to allow these things. Inhale, feel the expansion, exhale, and start to revolve. But again, you're trying to follow the fact that regardless of where your body is in space, the pranic flow is in every direction at once. It's actually going inside to outside, outside to inside, up to down, front to back. It's all happening, and it's too much for your mind. You just have to do. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. I can tell you that it helps me to move from the right side of my rib cage back to my left hip as a way to find my midline. Because if I stay in the midline, everything else stays more alert. And now your breath can touch everything and keep moving. It can touch the quiet, it can touch the action. Good, and then come on back to center. Your breath is a bridge between the ceasing and the movement. So why do you think when you're really strained, you hold your breath? I'm moving around again. Why do you think you hold your breath? It's because you're using the ceasing. You're using the part of the nervous system that's frozen to feel, so your mind can feel more of your poses, right? When you actually can be aware of the ceasing, the quiet part of the pose, and keep moving and breathing, more of you's coming into alignment. That's why you can't do yoga while holding your breath. Not for very long, right? Remember last week, So I'm going to sit here forward. I think we talked about this last week, that at the beginning of the inhalation, there's a pause. There's a locking down of your lower abdomen just at the very beginning, the ceasing, the frozen part, and it starts the expansion. Don't overdo that. Just know it's happening. Be an observer. And so you're watching that part. Taking a couple of breaths. Now, hopefully, just turn however you're sitting into a yoga pose. Like right now, I got my forearms across the table, so I'm making sure my forearm bones are touching the table. I'm hitting my sitting bones down. I'm broadening across my collarbones. Like, do whatever you know as you start to connect to the fact that there was the quiet part, the ceasing part in your breath, and just start to make your body be congruent, both with what the observer sees and with your action. And your breath touches both. Your breath is a bridge, and it's breathing you. Good. And then release. I'm going to come forward. I'm going to put my forearms on my thighs here. So I'm making a bone connection. Right? Like this. I'm doing this. So I could go, oh, I could come up into headstand here. Or I could do upward facing dog where my hands together mirrors the center of my chest. So I'm going to put my hands together, find the very center of my sternum, find where my sitting bones are, find where my feet are. I'm going to broaden the space between my shoulder blades, but I'm going to do it as an expression of feeling the space right outside of my spine. I'm going to ground it down through the body. And I'm going to start to back bend. I'm going to do more of a version of upward facing dog, right? So I'm being powerful now. I'm purposely trying to feel strong, right? So how do I do this? I open this like a lion's claw. I drop my shoulder blades down. I broaden across my collarbones. I head down through my sitting bones. I don't just look up with my eyes. I let my spine in the center of my chest help my chin go up. As I do that, I drop my shoulder blades down, keep spreading them, trying to let the energy filter down to my legs, and then from my legs back up through my spine. And I'm letting it go in all directions. So now I'm going to, with all this effort, I need to like stay connected to the whole room. Remember, you're practicing the allowing even when you're straining. Breathe. And then release. So one of the reasons why poses get more and more strenuous, right, is because at the end of the day, what you have to do is be in a really hard pose and still be able to allow. So your will's engaged, but it's not interrupting the flow of prana. Because you can squeeze and cut yourself off from prana. If you don't think you can, put your lips together, teeth slightly apart. Just feel. And now instead, clench your jaw really hard and tell you which one feels more connected to the flow of what's around you. You can do all sorts of things all the time to cut yourself off from prana. Holding your breath you can see it better, the pranic flow, but you can't live it as well. All right. So we're going to now lean over to one side, but we're going to be forward. So from here, remember, so you're connected to the whole room. Trying front to back. I don't want to go through all the words because the words are almost a distraction, right? And then I'm going to come forward and lean off to the side, lengthening my spine. So I could collapse my spine, and there's me not being part of the room. Here's me coming into the room with all of me, right? And I'm just going to pay attention here for a second to make sure before I move my arm, I want to make sure that I'm expanding into space from my spine out across my shoulders, right? So to do that, I'm going to continue down through my sitting bones down to the floor at an angle. I'm going to extend beyond this way. I'm going to allow that I'm extending this way. And then I'm going to take my arm up, but I'm going to be aware of the space down here, the length in my spine as I take my arm up. I don't care if you don't take your arm up. You could just do it without it taking your arm up. But I'm really trying to make sure. So now to balance here, see, I can already tell I'm closing energy right here, right? So I'm trying to like feel it all, stay in the whole room, feeling the empty spaces, feeling the space below me, feel the space here, noticing that my effort is happening. And prana is waiting for me to receive it directly through my body. Good, and then release. The one thing about being congruent with the multi-directional flow of prana, it's not going to make you hold a pose for all time. But there are yogis that can hold poses a long time. Do you think they're straining as much as you are? So we're going to go to the other side here. So I'm going to be connected to everything, alert in my spine, right? Not adding to the determinants of my body, breathing, doing all the stuff. There's so much stuff here. I'm going to lean over. I'm going to change gravity. Here's me falling out of prana because I dropped this part of my chest. Here's me coming into the room. Here's me out of the room. The prana is still happening. I'm just not getting to come through my body. Here's me getting it more through my body. Coming to life, right? Allowing the down, allowing the up, hitting down this way, hitting beyond the top of my head. And then by the time I move my arm, I'm just becoming congruent with what's already coming out of me, right? And now I'm trying to open to what's behind me, what's in front of me, right? Below me, trying to make sure I keep all the spaces open here. And I try to be an expression of the universe that doesn't care where my body is. It happens the same anyway. Every point is already integrated. Can I receive it? Good, and then release. And then come back to center. I think when you get people, like there's a yoga teacher that I got to practice with, Mary Dunn. You've heard this story before. I'm just gonna move around a little bit. Um, she did for a marathon, for a fundraising marathon, she did dog pose for 45 minutes. Right. And she had to come down, not because she was tired, because her finger, she had gripped the yoga mat and her finger, the beds on her fingertips got too sore. And she said, I didn't have to hold the pose. I came into balance with the pose. Right. So she was able to hold it that long because she wasn't straining. How she came into that kind of balance, you and I will never exactly know. But just sit up straight and tall again. So I'm grounding my, I'm grounding right here, and I'm safe, but I'm going to practice the sensation of balance. So don't always practice balance from a position off balance. If you're going to practice balance as a sensation, do it in a balanced position, right? At first. You can test it later. But someone like Amanda is going to want to test it all the time, right? Instead of like being content with watching it here. Remember, so think about an equal distribution of presence. So if my chest is dropped and I'm slumping like I'm doing right now, from what we're talking about, I'm not as balanced. The spaces outside of me are not flowing through the spaces inside of me. In order to get the spaces outside of me to flow through the spaces inside of me, in order to get the spaces inside of me to connect to the spaces outside of me, I have to transform. Now, to lift my chest and extend my spine, I have to have effort. If my effort's too willful, I'm going to be out of balance again. So here I'm like watching it be out of balance. Remember, this is why we're defining it as an equal distribution of presence, right? So now I'm going to start coming in, grounding through, come into the world, and now I'm going to take time to feel my skin, to feel the spaces on each side of my neck, to feel the spaces behind me, to let my strain not pull me out of the world, softening the inside of my mouth, the skin on my face while staying. I'm pressing down through my forearms. I'm extending my spine. I'm trying to figure out how to exert without disconnecting myself. So I'm trying to stay in my whole body in the room the same way. And if I wasn't, if I were just sleeping, good, and then release. So the thing is, if you know someone that's really asleep, they don't feel like they're in the room, right? So you're not just, you're trying to get the connection between what's inside of you. So this is why, so bring your hands into prayer. So I do all these things trying to like make me aware of the inside and outside connection, right? So the center of my chest, a lot of times I try to practice letting my hands in front of me or however they can be, right? To be an outer expression of the space on the inside of my sternum. So here's me practicing balance again, right? Can I get it to where by grounding my elbows and feeling, right? Can I let my hands be an outer expression of the space behind my sternum? Once I start doing that, what happens to my sensation of the space on each side of my shoulders? By my neck, what happens to the space behind me? So even though I'm sitting in a posture that's, quote, not off balance on an outer level, I'm trying to amplify the sense of balance on the inside. I'm trying to let the empty space on the inside integrate with the space in the room. I do better going from inside to out than from outside to in. If I go too much from outside to in, my sternum drops. So I'm trying to stay. Of course, if I want to screw up the pose, I'd clench my jaw. If I want to enhance the pose, I'm going to keep the tongue in the lower palate, lips together, teeth slightly apart. Oh, I got to let my legs come into the pose more. Oh, goodness. Maybe there's a part of you need to let into the pose more. Michael, I like this actually. Yeah. Once I say it, he has to laugh and move, though. Full of life, that guy is. You're not just centering, you're practicing balance, fullness. Good. One of the ways that I tried to teach PTs and rehab professionals is they were teaching balance as an achievement because they were only testing one kind of balance. But balance is something that's already occurred, right? It just might not be physically manifested. So, so yeah. So you're gonna try to be, when we say practice some symmetry before Shavasana, each foot, each sitting bone. What you're trying to do is set the conditions or the structure. So you're going to allow the relief of prana being already balanced, what I call the hum sometimes, to get nourished in Shavasana. So when you do kind of reposition yourself in your chair and lean back into your chair, you're trying to let the support, and you have to let this happen, actually support the empty spaces in your body. So have your hands, like my hands are on my lap with the palms slightly up. I have armrests, so my elbows are on that. So I feel balanced, whatever it looks like for you. But you're trying to get it so you can allow the chair to seep in, the support from the chair to seep into the dry soil of your body, so that the support comes in like water hitting soil. You want the water to go everywhere, so don't clench your jaw, let go of the skin on your forehead or on the temples. You want the water to have the freedom to seep in all directions. It already is seeping in all directions. You're just not receiving it from the universe like you could. You have to open. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Start to bring yourself back. So I think that's what I mean, that hum you feel when you really are in Shavasana as you bring yourself back. I'd call it a silent hum. Integrates what's inside of you with what's outside of you. Might calibrate to the sound Om. I don't know. I can kind of hear that. Little deeper inhalation and longer exhalation. Isn't it funny how far your mind gets disconnected from the fact that you're continually connected to the hum? Mind often tells a different story. When you're ready, open your eyes. What I love about yoga and shavasana is that the sensation of connection in the emptiness doesn't have to be a thought or a belief. It's an experience. I can feel it. So much like I've been not well this week, and I've been disconnected a lot this week because I've been managing. I'm not to blame for that. Um, but I've been off walking off the trail a little bit, trying to get through stuff. All right, and when you're ready, lean forward. Remember, balance never leaves you because it's already balanced. It's whether you're able to receive it. And so to me, when you get to this point, I feel this gratitude because I feel this vastness that I forget that actually is embodied into action. All right. Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit in you.